Hey guys, it's Merlin here, and today I'm going to talk to you guys about the graphic novel Wolverine's Revenge. Now, Wolverine's Revenge essentially chronicles an event that occurred before something rather major in Wolverine's life in recent continuity. Essentially, Logan got sent to hell. Seriously, he got sent to hell, and he fought his way out. He basically fought his way through the devil. It's actually kind of interesting to note that within his own comics, Wolverine tends to be the ultimate badass of badasses. As that previous example states, he pretty much could take on the hordes of hell by himself. However, outside of his own comics, he tends to, well, let's face it, get his ass kicked pretty much on a regular basis. But let's face it, Wolverine's pretty kick-ass in general. In any case, the events of this graphic novel follow Wolverine trying to track down the people that essentially sent him down to hell. And it turns out they're a mysterious organization with satanic backgrounds known as the Right Red Hand of God. Now, I will say right off the bat that this was a fairly well-written comic. It honestly was. It was very heartfelt and very intense, and this story definitely did exude incredible amounts of emotions in me as a reader. And the primary content of the trade is basically recounting the motivations of all the different members of this organization that are trying to get revenge on Logan. And that's what makes the comic so interesting. Makes this particular storyline so unique and good, but also kind of gives it a really noticeable flaw. Really, 90% of the story is basically flashbacks of these different members as to their motivations about why they're trying to take on Wolverine and why they're trying to punish him for all his deeds. And we find out that a lot of these individuals are just people that, by some means or another, Wolverine has either intentionally or unintentionally wronged in some way, usually the killing or harming of somebody in their lives. For instance, there was this one individual whose father ran across Logan in the Old West and, through the wrong course of events, lost his life and ruined this man's life. And there's another woman who was the member of a ninja clan whose honor was completely destroyed because of Wolverine's interference in one of his side missions. And essentially, there are just a various number of examples along those lines. And I will admit there is a spoiler here, so I'm going to warn you guys right now. There's a huge spoiler that I'm going to give away, but it's kind of essential to me explaining the point of this comic. It's established fairly early on that Wolverine is being drawn to them, to their headquarters, to take them on, because after this point, after being sent to Hill, Wolverine's naturally quite pissed, and they've selected a number of different people from across the world to basically be their bodyguards to try and take Wolverine on. And Wolverine slaughters all of them. And after taking down all these people, he goes into the main room, and the leader of the group has had everybody commit suicide, including himself, and he plays a tape for Logan to listen to. And with that tape, he basically explains how Wolverine really destroyed all their lives or hurt them in some incredible way, basically to get to him, to make him feel guilty psychologically. And at first, Wolverine does seem naturally a bit bothered by this, but he doesn't seem particularly broken up. However, when the tape reveals something about the people he just killed to get to them, those number of henchmen that I mentioned before, it is revealed that all those people were illegitimate children that Wolverine had throughout the course of his long life, that he did not know about. Now that was some serious vindictive stuff. Essentially, Wolverine ended up killing several of his own children. Now, in case you're wondering if that's how the trade leaves off, no, it doesn't. There is one small storyline that kind of wraps it all up. Kind of quickly, in all honesty. A little quicker than I think it should have. I think there should have been some serious psychological repercussions for Wolverine that should have carried on to other arcs, but for whatever reason, they decided to drop it right then and there. So in that sense, I don't know if it was really handled as well as it could be, but basically Wolverine's feeling really guilty. He's going to bury all his children, try and make amends, find some forgiveness, and he's trying to wander off into the woods, leave society because he's just a monster, trying to deal with the inner animal within. So there is some really good internal conflict, but of course, Wolverine's going to have to come back. And so somehow, pretty much every single person in the Marvel Universe, like every single hero, and a few villains, oddly enough, it seemed a little bit corny and surreal, to be honest, but somehow, because he goes missing, every single one of his friends, Spider-Man, many members of the X-Men, a couple of the Avengers, just pretty much everybody tracks him down and says, you know what, Logan, you've made your mistakes, you have your flaws, but you're still a good person. You've still done a lot of great things too, and we still care about you. We still want you. Don't leave. And they encourage him to not give up, to forgive himself, and basically to come back into the world of Marvel Comics, more or less. So even though the storyline was pretty messed up, in all honesty, it had a pretty positive ending. Wrapped up a little too quickly, in all honesty, but it still was pretty decent. All in all, this comic was really well written in that it captivated incredible emotions, and it really, really solidified the motivations of the people that sent Wolverine to hell and ended up having him kill his own children. This definitely had some serious intensity that kind of snuck up on me, and it really touched on a lot of really interesting themes about morality, too, which is worth noting. Also, the artwork was pretty good, at least in the major part of the story. The last part, it wasn't quite as good, but it was still decent artwork on the whole. But I have two primary issues with it, and the first one I mentioned was the fact that the moral repercussions of the storyline were kind of wrapped up a little too quickly for my taste, and in kind of a cheesy and rather unbelievable way, in all honesty. And also, there's also one rather big one, which is even more significant, though. This was a Wolverine trade, okay, a Wolverine storyline. And it really felt like most of it wasn't really about Wolverine. Even though the content did have something to do with him, he wasn't really a main character in the storyline. He's pretty much just going around killing people throughout most of it and really doesn't get that much dialogue until the last part of the storyline. It's mostly just recounting the backgrounds of all these people that are trying to get revenge on him. Now, it is interesting to see how Logan's life has influenced various people for good and bad in ways that he didn't even realize. So in that sense, it was interesting. And these characters did feel very realistic and believable, and they didn't seem completely evil, too. Their motivations were very interesting. It's just that they took away the spotlight from Wolverine in his own damn storyline. That's the only real negative I could say. And to be honest, other than that, it was very good, but I can only give this comic really about a 3 out of 5, because even though it was a really good comic, it didn't really utilize Wolverine as well as it could. And also, it really rushed up the morality and the ending a little too quickly and a little too neatly. In a Wolverine comic, you can be a little bit more gritty than that. Well, anyway, guys, that was my little review on Wolverine's Revenge. If you have any comments or questions, please feel free to let me know, and there'll be more videos coming up soon. This is Merlin, signing off. Until next time, guys.